Welcome to See You on the Other Side, where the world of the mysterious collides with the world of entertainment. A discussion of art, music, movies, spirituality, the weird, and self-discovery. And now, your hosts, musicians and entertainers who have their own weakness for the weird, Mike and Wendy from the band Sunspot.
Oh, Wendy, it's a very special Monday.
It sure is, Mike.
Number one, it is the 25th anniversary of the broadcast of the X-Files today.
Wow. 25 years.
Yeah.
Goodness.
September 10th, 1993. That was the only time that I remember that date very well. Number one, because it was a high school dance. And I taped the X-Files because I heard it was going to be a great show. So I taped the X-Files because I heard it was a good show. And The Adventures of Briscoe County Jr. with my man Bruce Campbell was before it.
Nice.
So I taped it and went to the dance and then got caught by a police officer in a park and ride afterwards.
Ooh,
yeah.
Busted.
Yeah, I did not know that the windows actually steamed up. So that was the only time
You're
that
naughty.
a police officer ever knock said, "What you guys doing?"
Oh man, that's embarrassing.
Just looking for a contact officer.
It was just like in Happy Days.
It was just like in Happy
Make
Days.
out point.
That was great. Oh, anyway, so I remember that date very well. And I remember coming home, and my dad did not like the Bruce Campbell show, Adventures of Briscoe County Jr. He's like, that was pretty cheesy. But that show after it, he's like, that show after it, you're really going to like it. So then I stayed up late. I stayed up till midnight or whatever to watch that first episode of The X-Files. And I did like it. And 25 years later, it was an obsession of mine for a long time.
And you should have known because Dad is always right.
He does. He makes a good point. He makes a fine point. Now, Wendy, welcome back to you. You went on a trip.
Thank you.
That's another reason today is special because you're back with us here in Madison. So where'd y'all go?
Yeah. Went on an awesome road trip with my boyfriend, Scott. And we went to visit some of his family, took a road trip down to Tennessee. And on our way there and back, we made a bunch of different stops at some cool locations with rumors of hauntings. And we saw some places with a lot of different folklore, everywhere from Nashville to Louisville to places way out in the country. We went to this tunnel, Sensabaugh Tunnel, way out in the hills of Tennessee, where there's rumored to be, it's kind of the same situation as that place in San Antonio with the railroad tracks, where, you know, if you shut your car off.
So like your car will be pushed or whatever?
That's what they say, that if you shut the car off in the middle of the tunnel, number one, your car won't start back up. And then number two, you'll get the little handprints from kids trying to push you out. Ghost kids, I guess.
All right.
So we tried it, but we didn't have that experience.
So the car just started. The car just started right back up.
Yeah, and we'll be posting a video of that from our experience because it was pretty cool. But you know, it was in the middle of the day when we visited, so who knows? Maybe in the middle of the night when it's spooky, scary.
The ghost kids come out to push your car.
There's some fun history there about the tunnel and, you know, some tragedy that happened there. So it's always interesting to follow up on that folklore and check it out and see if you find anything there.
Right. Well, that's cool.
But also, while we were in the Louisville area, we got to meet one of our good friends and Patreon community members, Chuck. So I have to give a huge shout out because while we were there, he gave us an extensive tour of the Louisville cool paranormal haunted sites. And not just in Louisville, but actually across the river over in Jeffersonville and New Albany. And I think it's Clarksville. We got to see the Lewis and Clark cabin, and we saw the Culbertson house.
What's in the Lewis and Clark cabin? Like is that where they met the first time or whatever? Or?
It's a little cabin right, you know, at the beginning of where their journey started.
Oh, is Clarksville named after Clark?
Presumably.
Holy crap! Now I never knew that.
and Louisville. Who do you think that's named after?
No, it is Lewis. Oh no! Come on, you're blowing my mind. I had no idea that those places were named after Lewis and Clark.
Now, on the Lewis and Clark topic, I just had to share with you this fact that you might appreciate. We also stopped at a local distillery the next day, and the Evan Williams Experience is in downtown Louisville.
Okay.
And they have the whole history and timeline, and they said that Lewis and Clark had 100, I'm going to mess this up, 120, I want to say, gallons of whiskey that they brought with them for their 4-year journey.
That seems smart.
How much of the canoe would that take up, though?
I guess.
I was blown away by that. I'm like, wow, all right,
Yeah.
good planning, guys. You know, you got to have the necessities when you're on a voyage
Right.
like that.
They're out there. It's just them and Sacagawea getting wasted by the campfire or whatever with a gallon of was it Evan Williams whiskey?
Yeah, I think so. I want
Oh.
to say, I'm not sure.
So when you drink Evan
Pretty
Williams,
sure.
and I did not realize that drinking Evan Williams was drinking like Lewis and Clark.
Exactly. I guess he was like the original distiller there or something. So anyway,
All right, that sounds
Thanks.
good. I'm gonna drink like an adventurer.
yeah. But if you're ever in Louisville or the surrounding areas, there's tons of old, cool places to visit. We also checked out some of the hotels downtown. The Brown is amazing. It's a lot like the Pfister in Milwaukee.
Okay.
And it has rumors of Mr. Brown, you know, the owner proprietor, still haunting the place, keeping an eye on the operation.
That sounds like a character from Reservoir Dogs haunting the place. Like Mr.
Yeah,
Brown,
exactly.
Mr. White, Mr. Pink there. Steve Buscemi haunts it.
Right. Well, he was a real character apparently. So, and those are the kind of people that usually turn up as ghosts. And then we went to the Seelbach Hilton, which also has a rumored blue lady. And that's referenced in The Great Gatsby. It's the place where Tom and Daisy got married.
Oh,
So it's a real cool old place. But
that's
anyway,
cool.
I had a great time. I mean, I'm excited to be back because we've got so much going on and so much to do, but I had a blast. And I want to, you know, once again, thanks Chuck for everything and for showing us around a place that we weren't familiar with. The coolest stuff there. And looking forward to the next road trip.
Well, now I'm jealous, and I want to go down to Louisville and hang out. I want to meet Evan Williams and Chuck.
You should.
All right. Well, that
They're good
sounds
guys.
good. Maybe we'll go down to the Paracon down there. There's a Paracon in Louisville, right? There's
That's
a
right.
Midwest
A huge
Frights or
one.
something.
Yeah.
So we should
Yeah,
go
we
down
got to
there,
check that out.
and we can interview some people and have a seat on the side table, and then all you Louisvillians can come in and say
Ooh.
hi.
That'd be fun.
Well, that sounds great. So, Wendy, while you were away, it became fall in Wisconsin. Like it just overnight.
I noticed that. And it stopped raining too.
Yes, it did. Well, it's still pretty flooded. I posted something on my Instagram the other day of when I was trying to run through the bike trail, and it actually
You had to swim through it.
it was a pool in the street. It was a straight up pool in the street.
wow.
I think I captioned something like it was a live action game of Pitfall. Like
I saw that.
It just was big enough. It was a huge pool in the street, and so everything's still closed off. The beer garden where I usually go to right by the lake, half of that is underwater still. So
Wow. But the
Yeah.
ghost tours are still on.
oh, absolutely.
Madison. Great.
Absolutely. So if you guys are listening to us and you're anywhere near the Twin Cities, St. Paul, Minneapolis, Stillwater, we have a ghost tour going there. So just check those out. You can, if you Stillwater Ghost, you find it, or anywhere in southeastern, south central Wisconsin, Milwaukee, Waukesha, Lake Geneva, Madison. Haunted history is in bloom, my friends.
Yes. It's that time of year. The best.
September through October, and that's what we're talking about today. We're talking about the first day of fall and the equinox.
Hang on. Let me go get some apple cider.
All right. Well, we'll be talking about apples in a little bit
Oh, yeah.
because traditionally, this is the time of the harvest, and the leaves they have already started changing. So that, like I said, like fall just showed up. Like woke up one day last week, and today it was in the 40s at 6 o'clock in the morning.
I know.
So right, and so all of a sudden we go to it was 75 degrees when you wake up at 6 a.m. 2 weeks ago, and today it's 45.
Shocking.
So-
Shockingly cold.
So I was given the shocker this morning by Old Man Winter when it's 45 degrees. My window was open. Okay, so here's the thing. The equinox is the first day of fall, and so when I say equinox, Wendy, what do you think of?
Well, I mean, first of all, I think of my birthday since it's on one of the equinoxes.
Oh, it's on the vernal equinox, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. So that's what I think of, being the self-centered person that
No, I would think about that too. I'd be like, yeah, equinoxes are cool because my birthday is on the equinox.
But no, I mean, typically it makes me think of the changing the seasons,
Yeah.
and also brings to mind the pagan rituals that go along with that, and the bonfires and the naked dancing around the bonfires.
Human
and,
sacrifice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Stuff with
maybe
the
not
Wicker
that, but-
Man.
How
Stuff with
about,
love.
Yeah, maypoles and whatnot.
Okay, I'm with you. The first thing I usually think of, number one, is the balancing an egg.
Yeah.
There's a myth that you can only balance an egg like during the equinox because of the rotation of the earth and the gravity.
Yeah. Sure.
Okay.
Have you tested that?
I don't have to test it. It's bull crap. Like you can balance an egg anytime. It doesn't get easier on the equinox or anything like that. But that's just one of those things as a little kid,
Dang.
my father was a science teacher. So it was hard for me to get away, because it'd be like, oh, Dad, this kid's at school told me it's crap. They're lying to you.
Forget about it.
Just like when they tell you they like you, they're lying to you about this, boy.
Oh, come on now.
We had a tough love in the Huberty household.
Bob wasn't that cruel.
So I think about that, that was the first myth. I think you think about the days and nights are equal measure.
Right.
And also
depressing.
Yeah, right? That all of a sudden it starts getting darker. And it gets, when we're at our lowest amount of light, it probably gets to be like 6 hours of daylight. So it is pretty,
goes quick.
Yeah. It does get pretty gnarly in there.
But nothing like our friends up in Canada.
No. Or like Iceland, where and then the movie 30 Days a Night is all about when it gets dark all the time, because then vampires can come party all the time because it's 30 days a night.
Yeah.
So yes. So I think, but it's starting to get dark. The leaves are changing. We've talked about this in previous episodes, but it's been a long time because I remember we talked about like Halloween traditions and everything probably around 200 episodes ago.
Wow.
Yeah, because you think we're coming on to the 4th year of the podcast this Halloween.
I can't believe that.
Yeah,
That's
it's been
insane.
4 years. 4 years and 200 some. This is episode 213. It blows my mind.
Yeah.
But the thing is, the ancients believed that when it starts getting darker out at night, the veil between the worlds is thinning.
Oh, yes.
So the time of harvest is when spirits can slip through, where the penumbra or whatever that separates us from the other side, the afterlife, that's when it starts getting more open. And that's why, pagans, their big festival is Samhain, obviously, where it's supposed to be totally open and, spirits just walking around goosing you.
Real quick, I think it's pronounced Samhain.
Samhain?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I like that. I think it's Sam Hain because I pronounce it like
It looks like Sam Hain.
And that's how Glenn Danzig pronounced it in his band. He had a band called Sam Hain after the Misfits.
That's hilarious.
And then there was the big Pumpkinhead ghost from the real Ghostbusters used the name Sam Hain too.
Oh, well, maybe
And the
there's
spirit of
multiple ways to
Halloween.
pronounce it.
Well, it's just the way the English people in America, the way we bastardize pronunciations.
Yeah.
And, we'll get there once we start talking about Mobin or Mabon. I'm sorry, that's the festival, the pagan festival we're about to come to at the equinox. It was named like in the 70s with the neo-pagans. They pronounced it Mabon. And that's based on a Welsh character who's actually an Arthurian legend. And that's when you can really tell that we're American, because when we start looking at these Welsh names, it's just going to be...
Forget about it.
Those are the hardest names.
They are.
In the world. And there's so many consonants. I thought with doubled and stuff. Anyway, you guys know. You guys understand. So, okay. So let's talk about some weird things about the equinox. We just started out saying, when is the equinox going to be this year? It's going to be on September 23rd in 2018. And 1:54 is the time. I guess I don't know what time. That's probably 1:54 Greenwich Mean Time or whatever is the time where everything's lined up. So that's the time you're supposed to plunge the knife into the human sacrifice or whatever. Right at 1:54 Greenwich Mean Time.
Great. Good to know.
When you lay out the Virgin at Stonehenge. And Stonehenge actually has a cool equinox tour you can go on.
Oh,
so
sweet.
So Wendy, if you have 99 pounds, you can go on the Stonehenge tour. And
Except that I have to get to Stonehenge.
That's the thing.
Ugh.
So here's how they describe it on like StonehengeTours.com. So you can't really, this is probably where you can get the closest to Stonehenge too. Because like the rest of the year, you can't really get at it. like Stonehenge from like behind the fence or whatever. So this is where you can get on the rocks.
Ah, that's surprising they let people do that.
It's an ad hoc celebration that brings together England's New Age tribes, neo-Druids, neo-pagans, Wiccans, with ordinary families, tourists, and travelers. About 100 people come out for the equinox party. And for many, the impulse to arrive at Stonehenge in time for the equinox is a little like all those people drawn to the strange rock in Close Encounters of the Third Kind. It's akin to a spiritual experience. Anyone who has witnessed the crowd become silent as the sky begins to brighten can attest to that. So they talk about what a beautiful place it is. And there's some awesome pictures of like dudes in masks, like with like pentagrams and capes. I mean, it looks awesome. Like I totally want to go there and party with everybody on the Equinox tour of Stonehenge. If you guys haven't heard our song, Mother of Time, off Weirdest Hits.
Oh, yeah.
That's all about partying at Stonehenge.
Yeah, look at all the people playing drums.
Yeah.
Looks fun.
Right. It's a big hippie drum party.
Circle.
Pagans and stuff. We have our own. We have a soul. They have like an Equinox drum circle in Madison, of course, at the park right by my house. And it's like at dusk or whatever before the equinox, and everybody will come out there, get high, and play drums.
Nice.
So, well, that's what they do. And so we have our own little pagan ritual here in Madison. But so that's one of the things you can do if you're interested in the equinox. You can become so Mabon, and celebrating the autumnal equinox. For Mabon, let's go into who that was.
Yeah,
okay?
Who was that?
Well, he was a Welsh hero whose name means son of the mother, which is like, well, okay, he's the son. We're all the son of the mother.
Is that from the Department of Redundancy Department?
I believe that is from the Department of Redundancy Department. But his mother was the goddess Modron. So she's the great giver of life and everything in like Welsh mythology. So the son of the mother, like he really is the son of the big mother, the earth mother.
Ah, the mother.
Yes. And he was stolen from his mother at 3 days old. Okay.
Ooh,
so
sad.
And right, the legend is that he's stolen and he's taken somewhere beyond Hadrian's wall. So they grab him, take him out, and then later on, King Arthur gets the job to find him. And he gets a bunch of his round table knights or whatever, and they go, and they've got to free Mabon from his prison. And the idea is, it's kind of like Demeter and Persephone in the underworld. The idea that when Mabon was taken away from the mother, she decided to take away her gifts. So that's why we have fall and things start dying, and you eventually have winter, because the mother's taking away her gifts of life and stuff because somebody stole her kid. And then, the idea is that King Arthur is gonna get him back with a bunch of his buddies, and they need the help of these magical animals to find it. So they need the help of a stag. They need the help of the salmon. They have to go talk to a salmon, who's the wisest creature, the oldest creature in all of Wales, is a salmon.
He tastes so good too.
Yeah, right. He's delicious.
With a little teriyaki sauce.
And you spread them on a bagel. No, but they go eat the salmon, the wise salmon. No, they don't eat the salmon. But the idea is King Arthur is given these impossible tasks, and one is breaking Mabon out. And so he starts becoming associated with the harvest. This character, Mabon, or Mabon. I mean, that's the thing. Like, there's a whole bunch of ways you can say it. Mabon, Mabon, Maboon, or Mabon are all the ways you can say it. And so, talk about the symbols and stuff. I'm in the official Wicca.com here. So I don't know if that makes me, if this is the official from the Wicca people. But I don't think Wiccans are as maybe stringent about the rules as like the Catholic Church or whatever. I know there's no Pope of Wicca. There's no, what'd you call a female Pope? A papette?
Oh, I don't know.
Right? Because in the Catholics can never have a female Pope. So, but anyways, there's no papette of Wicca. But so the symbolism of the holiday is the second harvest, and that's time to collect things. Equality, balance. The apple is a big one. So the fall is the time for apple magic, Wendy.
Ooh, that sounds fun. Is that like the newest device?
Right, that's what I'd say. They're actually, the funny thing is, fall is the time for apple magic because that's when in September is when they announce the new iPhones.
Okay, well, there you go.
They actually have an iPhone event on Wednesday. So when you think about Apple, Wendy, what's your first, not Apple computer or whatever, don't think about Steve Jobs here. But when you think about apples and magic, what's the first thing you think about?
Magic. Oh, I don't know. I mean, it makes me think a little bit of the Halloween tradition of bobbing for apples.
Okay, that's the harvest time. There you go.
But magic.
What I think of is what the...
Snow White.
Oh, yeah.
The poisonous apple.
She was given a poison apple.
Magic poison apple.
And then Eve, of course.
Oh, gosh.
The apple of knowledge.
How could
She's
I
given the apple.
forget?
But I think of when I was in 7th grade or whatever, and the girls used to take the apples for lunch, and then you twist the apple and say the alphabet.
Yeah.
So for every twist, you say A, B, C, D, and whatever letter the stem came out as would be the first letter of the name of the boy you would marry.
Yeah, and the poor bastards whose names are at the end of the alphabet never.
Right.
Because it would always be like 5 twists and it's gone.
Yeah, there's like Zane never gets put out for that. Zane or Yancey.
Yeah.
Or Xavier. Or what's a V name? The guy's V name.
Victor.
Yeah, Vic. Right. Yes, absolutely. I'm like, because I keep going to the end of the alphabet. I'm like V, like Victoria. I'm not thinking, okay, right, Victor, perfect. So the thing is, that's one of the first things I think. But that comes from a long tradition of apples for foretelling the future. So you peel the apple and you keep the peel in as long as a piece as possible.
Okay.
So when the peel comes off, you drop it on the floor and you see if it forms a letter.
Oh, that's fun.
So if it twists itself into an S or a J or it's a straight line with an I, and that will be the first initial of your true love's name.
Aww.
So that's something. Now you see, it's never gonna. So this is where guys like me get screwed because it's never gonna form an M. Like you're not gonna drop the peel and then it's gonna have to be a double.
It might be less likely to occur.
Yeah, totally less like it's like being the Z at the end of the thing.
Because you need the peel to be really long.
Yeah, it has to be super long and it has to be like magical itself that it formed an M.
It's true.
Who dropped on the floor and look, check that out. So the golden lane, it arched perfectly twice. So here's a little thing you can do on the solstice if you like. You can wait until midnight and cut an apple into 9 pieces. Take the pieces into a dark room with a mirror. It says either hanging on the wall or even a handheld mirror will do. And at midnight, begin eating the pieces of an apple while looking into the mirror. When you get to the 9th piece, throw it over your shoulder, and the face of your lover should appear in the mirror.
That's creepy.
Yeah. So, like, the face of your stalker will appear in the mirror.
Yeah, that's... I don't know about that.
Oh, and now, let's say you have several suitors.
Okay.
You peel the apple and pull out the seeds. Place a wet seed on your cheek for each of your suitors.
Okay.
And the last one left stuck to the skin will represent the suitor who is your true love.
Oh, so you have to like name them. You have to like mark them off. Keep track of them.
Yeah, so like this seed is Bill. This seed would be Pete.
Are those your suitors, Mike?
Those are my suitors. This
Bill and Pete.
Bill, Pete, and Victor are all on my face, the V's. And so which one shall it be? Okay, the last one. So that's a funny thing. So, but it's funny that these apple magics are all associated with lovers. But it's not that weird because testosterone also peaks in the autumn.
Oh dear. So help us all.
Yes, the testosterone peak. Well, for men and women, that is the main hormone behind the love drive.
Aha.
And so testosterone peaks in the fall, and so this is the ideal time for reproduction.
Well then,
and so you can see why all these apple traditions have to do with finding lovers, because this is when people are the randiest. And what else? Oh, one of the big reasons is the cooling temperatures is the reason that men particularly have more testosterone production, because the hot temperatures make it harder for hormone and sperm production.
Okay.
So-
all right. There's our little physiology lesson for the day.
Yeah. So a little bit about fall there. The equinox, if you find yourself like, just looking at your lover like, oh yeah, after the equinox, it's because that is the whole natural way. And that is nature's way of saying it's fall time. Let's put on some Barry White and make some magic happen.
Exactly.
Other cool things about the apple magic. I mean, the apple is associated with immortality.
Okay. Apple a day.
That's one of the apple a day keeps the doctor away. And there was actually a harvest ritual for Mabon with once you harvest the apple, you cut the apple through the middle, and then kind of where the the seeds are and stuff, that's where you'll see like a 5-pointed star. It looks like a and so they see that as a magical symbol. A symbol of the divine and stuff. That's one of the reasons that guy had a 5-pointed star on his cape or whatever when he was at Stonehenge.
Aha.
So you light your harvest candles. You face whatever altar you have, and your altar will be full of like gourds and things like that.
Cool.
Can you eat a gourd?
I think some of them are like squash that are just dried out, aren't they?
Yeah, I mean, I should probably look it up what a gourd is. But like the idea, I mean, I think of gourds as just something that like people have in their houses in the fall. Like I don't think of it as something
that lasts forever. I think it's just, I think it's like a form of squash that's dried out. I don't know.
All right. Well, put a gourd in your pagan, put a gourd in your pagan harvest temple. And so you look towards the altar. And then it's got acorns, vines, grapes, blackberries. Probably you're going to want to have some wine before you do it. It's the harvest time, so. And you're about to do a pagan ritual, so you probably should be a little bit in the bag. And so if you're supposed to cast a circle, then go ahead and cast your circle. But you light your candles, hold the apple, raise the apple to the sky, and then you're supposed to feel the wisdom and the energy that God's coming down to you. And you say this. The apple is sacred, a symbol of the gods, and holds the knowledge of the ancients inside. Tonight, I ask the gods to bless me with their wisdom. 5 points in a star hidden inside. 1 for earth, 1 for air, 1 for fire, 1 for water, and the last for spirit. Turn to the south. I call upon the wise ones, the ancient gods, as the sun moves away and fire fades to be replaced with the chill of the night. Turn west. I will reflect on the guidance of the gods and let the cool autumn rains wash over me, cleansing my heart and soul. And then there's some other stuff you say. And then, you're supposed to have some luck. So you get the wisdom of the gods, so you're harvesting wisdom.
Okay.
With your apple magic.
Well, I could use some of that, so maybe I'll give it a whirl.
Yeah, why not? Just grab some gourds, get a cup of wine, and you can have your own Mabon ritual.
Sounds kind of fun, actually.
It does sound kind of fun. So the apple is really associated with magic rituals and things like that people perform on Mabon. And I know we're being, cavalier about this because it is, it's over dramatic and things like that. But you have to be over dramatic. And as we talked to Dean Radin in his book, Real Magic, it's that going through the ritual that makes things happen.
Yes.
So you got it. You turn to the west, turn to the south. You go through each little part of it. And that's what makes all the difference. Like it solidifies your belief.
Right.
And I just think that's really interesting.
Yeah, for sure.
Something else that I had no idea when we were researching about this, about the equinox, that I hadn't heard of before. But do you know the story in the Bible, Wendy, about Abraham having to sacrifice his son Isaac? You ever heard that?
I don't remember.
Okay, so that's one where God's like, you say, you guys love me, right? You really, really love me. Well, how much do you love me?
Uh-oh.
Do you love me enough to kill your son?
Oh.
Yeah, he totally says it to Abraham. And Abraham's like, jeez.
Wow, rough.
I don't really want to kill my son, but for you, I mean, the thing is, God is talking to him. So, like, it's different than if, like, it just pops into your head, like, maybe I should kill my son. So, Abraham's about to go and do it. Like, it's called the binding of Isaac.
Oh, man.
And he sets him up. And this is actually, I didn't know that he did it on the autumnal equinox.
Oh.
So that was the time that he's going to go. He's all set up. He's about to kill his son. Abraham's about to stab Isaac in the heart during the equinox. So there is our human sacrifice for the equinox. And it's not even pagan. It's Judeo-Christian. And then God comes and goes, well, he sends an angel down. It's like, just kidding. Just kidding. Just
unbelievable. That's a mean trick.
Well, it is Old Testament God. An Old Testament God is a vengeful and angry one.
Right.
And so he's like, just kidding. Here.
You passed the test, though.
Yeah, you got it. It totally did. Like, we weren't going to make you kill your kid. Funny, right? God's
hilarious.
Like, you'd imagine they're like pointing right, like he's got his hat backwards. He's pointing right at Abraham. He's like, I gotcha.
So terrible.
Yeah, so he was punked. God played the Ashton Kutcher character and punked Abraham in the binding of Isaac. So then he still had to kill a ram and drink its blood. So they still sacrificed something.
That's gross.
Yeah. It just wasn't his son. Now, from this, though, comes this superstition. And in Hebrew, it's, watch me butcher this, tekufot, or tekufot, or tekufot.
Okay.
I apologize to any Hebrew speakers out there. Or turnings of the sun. That's what turnings of the sun is in Hebrew. And so they have this weird one around the autumnal equinox that when it's near the actual time, like we said, like the 1:40 Greenwich Mean Time is, then you're not supposed to drink water at that particular time.
Oh.
So the idea is that water might be poisoned at that particular time. So the superstition is that water is dangerous at the time of the equinox. So be really careful about it. And one of the rumors is that superstition might have came from as when Abraham was about to sacrifice Isaac and got a little blood on the knife. Like the idea was that the blood spilled into the soil at the time of the equinox or whatever. And so it's a little bit of Isaac's blood that might be in the water.
Oh, I see.
So that idea is it's dangerous because Isaac's blood is in the water at the particular time. And I'd never heard of that particular. I had to look into the Jewish magic and superstition book to find anything about that.
Not familiar.
Yeah, and it's only supposed to be drinking water at the instant of the tekufa. And so a lot of people played it safe and they just didn't drink water on the equinox in Middle Ages Europe. Particularly like in Germany and in the Jewish communities, and Europe, the Ashkenazi communities, they thought that this was dangerous to drink water. And so one of the things is you put iron in the water because iron is supposed to,
ward off things.
Mm-hmm. Evil, and evil spirits playing with you and stuff like that. So the blood enabled evil spirits to get in the water. You could put in some salt. Or the other thing is you don't have any open water on the equinox and you cover up your water sources so no evil stuff can get in on the tekufa. So learn something new about Middle Ages Jewish culture, and that's always a fun time when you're like, oh yeah, like what did you learn today? Well, I learned you don't drink water on the tekufa, dummy. All right, so some other fun stuff about Mabon. So if you're thinking about having foods, particular things to celebrate your solstice, you might want to think about apples, of course. Pomegranates are a big one.
Yummy.
Now, the thing, what else connects pomegranates to this particular thing is the legend of Persephone, who I brought up before.
Ah, okay.
And so Persephone, actually, that's a symbol. You guys, did you watch Sharp Objects on HBO? Did you watch that show yet?
No, not yet.
Okay. This isn't a spoiler or anything, but Persephone is one of the themes. And if you guys don't remember the story from your grade school mythology class, so Demeter is the goddess of a harvest and life and food and awesome things and growing things. So you pray to Demeter, and Demeter helps your things grow. So Zeus knocks up Demeter, like as Zeus does. He went around, had a lot of sex, and probably in the fall because his testosterone was up. And he had a lot of kids with various people, goddesses and stuff like that. So he has he makes the sweet love to Demeter, and they have a daughter, Persephone, who's incredibly beautiful. Okay. And Demeter loves Persephone so much, and they're so happy, blah, blah, blah. Well, Hades, the lord of the underworld, he falls in love with Persephone from afar. And he's like, oh, I'd really like to make her my wife. But then when you asked somebody, hey, do you want to come over and just be in the land of the dead and in the underworld? And she's used to all this life and wonderfulness. She's like, no. So what happens is Hades sees where Persephone is like playing or frolicking with some sprites and pixies and crap. And then he opens up the ground where she is.
Uh-oh.
She falls through, snaps her, and takes her to the underworld. Puts the ground back together before anybody knows what happened. So Persephone's off to the underworld. Hades, kidnaps her. The Greeks were always, in Greek mythology, I shouldn't say the Greeks were, but the Greek mythology people are always kidnapping women, taking them to their cave or whatever, taking them to their city, the Trojan War, the whole deal. So Persephone's in the underworld. Demeter doesn't know where she is, and she starts freaking out.
Oh.
And the thing is, the only two people who know that Hades took Persephone are Helios, the god of the sun, because Helios sees everything that happens under the sun, and Zeus, because he's the king of the gods and he knows this stuff. Now, Hades is Zeus's brother, and Zeus is just like, doesn't want to get him in trouble, and so he keeps quiet. And Helios doesn't want to deal with the affairs of the gods, whatever, so Helios keeps quiet. So Demeter freaks out. She goes all over the world to try to find her daughter. And there's this whole thing about her journey and stuff, and then she gets molested by Poseidon, when she's like a horse, and he molests her as like a merman. Like this, all these weird things happen, horrible things happen to her when she's searching for her daughter. But the thing is, they all contribute to her just being mad at the world and shutting all the life down.
Okay.
So what she does is she says, you know what? Screw you guys. I'm going home. We're not going to grow anything. She takes away all the food. She makes everything die. She creates winter. So she creates winter and kills off everything because she's mad that her daughter is gone.
Fair enough.
Okay. And then what happens is that Zeus is like, oh no, like everything's dying. I better do something. And he finally says to, he says to Hades, like, you got to bring her back. Like, her mom's freaking out. Everything's dead. Like, winter sucks. And it's all because you couldn't keep it in your underworld pants. And so Hades is like, you know what? I'll give her a choice. I'll give her a choice to go back. And, here's something I just thought of, Wendy.
Yes.
And I didn't realize this before. Now, one of the things we always talk about when we talk about fairies and the fairy world is that when you were in the fairy world, you're not supposed to eat anything. Because if you eat something, you get stuck there.
Right.
Well, Persephone, she knows that if she eats something in the underworld, she's going to be stuck in the underworld.
Okay.
But she's been there for a long time.
Starving.
She's so hungry. She has a few pomegranate seeds.
Oh, dear. Oh, honey.
Right. And that's it. So then Hades is like, she made her choice. She had some pomegranate seeds. She's my wife, at least for a few months out of the year. So Zeus is like, hold on, we got to strike a deal. And so he makes it like 1 month for each pomegranate seed of winter.
Oh, okay.
And he says that she can be with her mother for half the year and with you for the other half of the year, because she did eat when she was down there. So she did choose to become part of the underworld by eating, even if she was just really, really hungry.
And that's sad too, because how are 3 pomegranate seeds going to help your hunger? Really?
Right?
It's just going to make you want more.
Not at all. That's the crap part of the legend. You think it'd be a cornucopia or something like that. Like, oh no, she had 3 pizzas, and so we should have a month for each pizza.
Unfair.
But instead it's pomegranate seeds. And so when she's up in the outer world with Demeter, with her mother, Demeter is the happiest lady on there. And so that's why things grow. That's why we have summer. That's why beautiful blue skies. And when she leaves Demeter and goes back to the underworld, well, that's why we have winter, because Demeter is sad that her daughter's been taken away from her.
Aww.
So we talk about pomegranates. That's one of the reasons that they are associated with fall as well. So it's not just the
harvest time for those.
Yeah, the harvest time. We also have a cool story from Greek mythology.
That is cool.
It's very similar to the story of Mabon as well, because his mother was upset when he was stolen from him. And the thing is, the Romans were occupying Britain in like the year 100. I mean, the Hadrian's Wall was built in like 280 or whatever. So, I mean, the Romans were there. So we could have some cross-pollination of stories and things like that coming. That could be their version of the Demeter story. But either way, it's still very similar. And that's one of the reasons the neo-pagans call this specific festival of the autumnal equinox Maybone. You know what? I'm just going to call it Maybone the rest of the time because Maybone sounds tougher.
That works. Sounds kind of cool.
So we're going to have, on Maybone, we're going to eat breads, nuts, apples, pomegranates, and then harvest vegetables like potatoes, carrots, and onions.
Cool.
All right.
Tasty.
So that's what you're going to get in your HelloFresh package that week for Maybone. And the colors of Maybone are red, orange, brown, gold. Things like, just like you have in your...
Yeah. If you go to the shopping mall right now, you'll see them all over the place.
That's right. You probably, the colors of gourds. Activities, things you should do on Maybone.
Okay.
Make wine.
All right.
So I like that right there.
Yeah.
Gather dried herbs. So get your herbs ready for the winter.
Okay.
I don't have any dried herbs, so I'm going to have to just go to get them from the grocery store or whatever. You should walk in the woods.
Sounds nice.
You should offer libations to trees. I forgot about that.
Awesome.
You're supposed to offer trees drinks.
What kind of drinks do they like?
You know what? I'm going to look that up because I'm not sure exactly what you would... Trees drinking on Maybone. Let's see what... And that is the weirdest Google search I've made today. Well, cider and apple juice, of course.
That's kind of weird. It's like cannibalism.
Is that cannibalistic? Would you just pour an apple and drink your children? Yeah, well, I mean, I guess you can pour it on an oak. Pomegranate juice, bourbon. Okay. This particular article suggests grape wine, apple juice, IPAs, and amber ales.
All the good stuff.
Yep, a corn and rice beverage. So rice beverage, I mean, I guess you can drink your Budweiser. It's a rice beer.
Or your sake.
Yeah. Cranberry juice and berry drinks.
Wow. Pretty much anything those trees will drink. They're not picky.
Yeah. Well, I mean, whatever. You're going to pour something on them or mead or whatever. If you're going to pour mead on a tree, he's not going to turn it down.
True.
Yeah. He's probably going to sit there and take it. Take it like a tree.
Standing up.
Hey. So make sure you give the trees some alcohol and stuff like that on Maybone. And in Japan, they have a special autumnal equinox day, and that's a religious day for them. Because in Japanese Buddhism, from where the land of the dead is, that's the sun sets in the area where the land of the dead is on that particular day of the year.
Okay.
So they have a particular thought about it too, and it's a holy day for them as well if you are a Japanese Buddhist. Some other fun things. There's another myth that I remember hearing, but I never tested it out. Was that your shadow casts differently on the equinox?
Oh, that's cool.
You don't cast a shadow.
Okay.
If it's right at that certain time, at 1:40 Greenwich Mean Time or whatever, you don't cast a correct shadow on the equinox. That is also not true. So the only place where that might even happen is if you are directly standing on the equator when the clock strikes noon on the equinox. If you directly stand on the equator, then you would not cast a shadow because it'd be directly above you and it'd be right at that point, everything's equal and stuff. And so your shadow would be just right below you.
That's a tough one to test.
Yeah, because you got to get to the equinox. I mean, you have to get to the equator. So that's another myth about things that happen, during that. Also, it's not exactly 12 hours of daylight and 12 hours of darkness.
Oh?
It really depends on where you are. So it is going to be the time of the year when the amount of daylight and the amount of darkness are closest to each other.
Uh-huh.
But because we don't live on the equator, Wendy, we live in Wisconsin where it's cold.
True.
It is not... it's not 12 hours of daylight and 12 hours of darkness.
Right.
And it'll never be because we're not exactly in the center.
Exactly, yeah.
So that's just... So you guys, if you're telling people, oh yeah, it's 12 hours of daylight on, you're wrong. Unless you live in the equator. So if you live in one of the if you live in Equatorial Guinea,
enjoy your 12 hours.
In Equatorial Guinea. Yeah, have fun with that 12 hours of daylight and 12 hours of darkness. And your lack of shadows at noon.
That's right.
So you really get to have a good party. But the thing is, if you are below the equator, then it's not the autumnal equinox.
Oh, yeah. No, that's true. It's not the autumnal equinox.
No, it's the spring. You could be one place it's the autumnal equinox, one place it's the vernal equinox.
Oh,
depending on where your legs are.
You straddle the equator.
Yeah. So like if you go to Iceland, you can be in like one continent, you can go where the continental shelf is or whatever. So you can have one leg in Europe and one leg in like the different plates and stuff. So that's what it's like if you live in Equatorial Guinea. So that's a little bit of the fun stuff there, and more of the strange, that we even have these superstitions. Like, who's thinking about this stuff enough that they want to tell people about it? Number one, who's thinking about the egg is what I want to know.
I don't know. That's a good question.
Yeah. Who's like, that seems like another case of like where God punked Abraham or whatever.
Yeah.
When he was like, just kidding. Like somebody was thinking like, what can we make these stoops believe? Oh, I know what we can do. We can make these guys believe you can balance an egg during the equinox. And then they're going to tell it to the rest of third grade.
Oh, man.
Yeah. It's, when we get to the harvest, it's also, there's different spells that are good for the harvest. And harmony and balance because of that, because of the equinox and stuff. So this is when we want to cast a spell to keep your life in balance. So if you're struggling with work-life balance, this is the day to get your ritual going when you ask the stars for wisdom and you cut your apple in half.
Okay.
Yeah, so this is, you kind of want to get harmony and balance together for the winter. This is the time to do it. And it's a time of the mysteries. Fun. Yes, it's a time where people think about, the big things in life. Why are we here? What's going on? I like to think it's probably because it's also an time introspection too, because you're not working in the fields anymore. I mean, we still work in the fields on the podcast or whatever.
Yeah.
Like we don't have we're harvesting.
Right.
We're harvesting for you every week. But if you're in ancient times or whatever, then you're like, we're going to take a break. And I was reading I can't remember what book I was reading, but they were talking about how if you were, let's say you were in Europe, or particularly in Western Europe, like France or Germany or something, in the Middle Ages, and you were a peasant, you spent the winter like 16 hours in bed.
Oh, wow. That sounds nice, actually.
There's nothing to do. It does sound right. There was not, like, I mean, think about if it's snowy.
Yeah.
And there's no, so you save up all your food and everything in the harvest time. You save it for the winter. And then when the winter comes, like, you don't have to shovel your driveway to get to work. You just stay, because there's no work because everything's dead. So you just stay in bed. So, I mean, if you live off the land, I mean, I guess if you have cows and stuff, you got to feed the cows.
Yeah. You
got to get out of bed for that. But anyway, things you can do if you want to celebrate Maybon, is you want to meditate and pray for balance in your life. Praying for peace is a good time. You plant seeds. This is where you plant the seeds of intention in your own life for peace and harmony and things like that. And so that's traditionally the kind of magic that they do. You don't need to have an apple, but an apple will help when you're doing your rituals.
Cool.
In Maybon. And you don't need to be at Stonehenge, but it's extra badass if you are at Stonehenge.
Looks like so much fun.
Yeah, make sure now bring your hand drum, whatever kind it is, or if you've got finger cymbals or something, you bring those to Stonehenge. And then
sing the Sunspot song, Mother of Time. And while you're there,
while you sacrifice a virgin at 140 Greenwich.
Oh, yes.
But the thing is, if you find if you're singing a Sunspot song, by the time you get to the end, there might not be any virgins left.
Oh my goodness. Alrighty then.
That's right. You can pick up a copy of our latest album at sunspotuniverse.com. Anyway, after the equinox is a time for love. And nothing is a good soundtrack for love like The Wonders of the Invisible World.
That is true.
Anyway,
that is true.
Speaking of music, Here's a song about Maybone to keep your equinox humming. Here's a rock song. Well, we had to go back into the King Arthur stuff for this one, because you can't just tell me a story about King Arthur like hanging out with a bunch of magical animals to save the son of the goddess and not want us to write a song about it. And plus, Hadrian's Wall is the, if you guys watch Game of Thrones or have read any of the Song of Ice and Fire, Hadrian's Wall is the inspiration behind the wall in that. And Wendy, have you ever visited Hadrian's Wall?
I don't think so.
It's pretty cool. Now, if you guys don't know what Hadrian's Wall is, this was the edge of the Roman Empire. So when the Romans had occupied Britain in the early zeros, when the Romans had occupied Britain, the emperor built this wall to say this is the edge of the Roman Empire, and everything beyond it is like the land of the savages. That's where they were afraid of the Celtic tribes, the Picts, and the different tribes who would, rebel against Roman rule. And so the wall was there to help them, fight off the native tribes and help the Romans colonize the place. And so it's like 84 miles long. But Hadrian's Wall is it's not like a big impressive wall today.
Oh, okay.
It's like because it's, almost 2,000 years old. It's only a couple feet high.
It's eroded away a bit.
Yeah. You're just like, hey, look at this I could probably keep bunnies out. And that's about it. But it's still awesome. Hadrian's Wall is still awesome. It's still a cool place to go there. And it's real pretty, the rolling English countryside and stuff. And it's still a beautiful place to check out if you guys can. And the history is very interesting. So when we could integrate Hadrian's Wall, King Arthur, we're going to do it. So you got to check out this song inspired by the Autumnal Equinox in 2018 and the awesome festival Maybone. Here is Beyond the Wall.
Thank you for listening to today's episode. You can find us online at othersidepodcast.com. Until next time, see you on the other side.
Well, before the actual equinox is here, Mike, there's something exciting happening next weekend.
Oh, what's happening next weekend?
The Mothman Festival.
Oh, yes.
And our co-host, Allison, is going to be presenting there. So anyone who is in Point Pleasant to check that out, make sure and say hello to Allison. and see what she has to say about the Chicago Mothman. It's pretty exciting stuff.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. She's going to be at the Mothman Festival in Point Pleasant. Now, I'm the only guy on the show that hasn't been to Point Pleasant, so I'm going to have to rectify that
Otherwise,
situation sometime soon.
We're off balance here, Mike. We need you to go experience it for yourself.
Yes. So go see Allison this weekend if you were anywhere near the Point Pleasant, West Virginia area. Now, if you are one of our Patreon members, we want to give you a special shout out because you are awesome. Like Wendy and Scott got to hang out with our buddy Chuck, with our Patreon Chelsea in Illinois.
So much fun.
So Wendy even went on a Patreon pilgrimage, and I'm looking forward to going on one too and meeting our Patreons in person.
And you know what? The hangouts over Google are very fun.
It is. What's nice is that I feel like I know everybody now. Like after we've talked for we've talked for the past couple of years.
Oh yeah.
I feel like I know everybody.
Yeah.
And so when we see you at a paranormal convention, or we see you at a Sunspot show, or we see you in a sanitarium somewhere, it's going to be a lot more fun because we get to know each other on the Google Hangouts.
Yeah.
And we want you guys to be part of our next Google Hangout.
Yes. And you can do that by visiting othersidepodcast.com/donate for as little as $3 a month. It's pretty cheap.
$3 a month, that's not even a Frappuccino. That isn't even a I went actually, even in an indie coffee shop, not even a Starbucks. I went to my local coffee shop on Saturday. I got a cool ghost story from the guy who owned it. And I'll tell you guys about that later when we cover maybe some more into the smiley face killers.
Oh boy.
But I paid like $4.50. I mean, I tipped him because it's the local guy, right? And you're gonna tip the local guy so you get good service. But the thing is, I paid $4.50 for a cup of coffee. Yeah, I could have been at our Google Hangout, Wendy.
You could have. And Mike, we have to give a big, extra special Equinox shout to Ned.
Ned, please enjoy 12 hours of daylight and 12 hours of darkness in the finest way possible, my friend.
Yes, and thank you for being a member that gets this personalized shout out every month. You rock.
That's right.
You guys all rock. We're happy to have such a great community, and we look forward to new people joining us too.
Absolutely. And we hope you guys, now we're going to celebrate the Equinox a day late with the party on the pavement in Racine, Wisconsin. But if you're anywhere near the area, come out and party with us. And we will give you a special Equinox shout out if you mention that from stage at the party on the pavement. So come to the show in Racine if you're in the area. We know we have a lot of Wisconsin and Illinois listeners. So if you're in Illinois, across the border, if you're in Wisconsin, don't be afraid of downtown Racine. It's beautiful. And come down for an Equinox party at Party on the Pavement on September 22nd at 3 p.m. That's not Greenwich Mean Time. That's Central Time.
And we'll see if we can live cast a little for our Patreon community.
That would be great. If you guys would like to become part of our Patreon community and you aren't yet part of it, just check out othersidepodcast.com/donate.
Thanks for listening.
Let me find the ritual here. I lost it now because I was looking up frickin' gourds.
Man.
Okay. Everything's dead. Like winter sucks. And it's all because you couldn't keep it in your underworld pants.